Welcome back, everyone. This is the second and final episode of our cannibalistic past. Okay, I promised to talk about cannibalism in our own species. So fasten your seatbelts and we'll go through this tough topic together. And we're going to try and have a little fun along the way. As with so many other things involving humanity and science, exploring the dark side leads to greater light and understanding. So first of all, there is widespread evidence of cannibalism among Homo sapiens through time. Author of Dinner with a Cannibal, Carol Travis Hinikoff, has stated, "There's no human in the planet who doesn't have cannibals in their ancestry." Most of us are familiar with a couple of relatively recent examples. Perhaps the most widely known case in the United States is the ill-fated Donner Party, a wagon train of 87 immigrants bound for California that were trapped by snow in the Sierras during the winter of 1846 and 47. They ran out of supplies, couldn't find anything to hunt, and when the 48 survivors were rescued the next spring, it came to light that they had resorted to cannibalism to survive. The other well-known case happened more than a century later when in 1972, a Uruguayan Air Force flight crashed in the Andes Mountains, after which the lives of 16 survivors were saved by their eating portions of the 29 dead passengers. But there's a third instance of cannibalism that a lot of folks don't know as well. It's the strange tale of Alfred Packer, a Union Army vet who headed west after the Civil War. In the fall of 1873, he convinced a group of 5 prospectors that he was a guide and knew the area around Gunnison, Colorado really well, even though he didn't. About 6 months after that party set out, Packer staggered into Gunnison and told officials his 5 partners had left him to hunt for food and they'd never returned. He had toughed it out alone and come down the mountains when he could. Most folks didn't believe him, and Packer was arrested and began telling conflicting stories. He finally confessed to having cannibalized his companions' bodies after their deaths. But when evidence of murder was found, he was brought to trial. The judge is said to have stated, "There was only 7 Democrats in Hinsdale County and you done ate 5 of them." But Packer escaped from jail before his trial was complete. And it was 9 years before he was rearrested in Wyoming. Thereafter, he was convicted of murder, but that was overturned, and he was finally convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 40 years. Packer served 17 of those and was paroled, and he's buried near Denver. A couple more quick things about Packer. It turns out where his snowed-in party ended up was an easy walk to a nearby town. They just missed it. The other story I like is that Al's given name was Alfred, but he changed it to Alfred after a tattoo artist misspelled his name.
That's my credo. No regrets.
Mm-hmm. You have no regrets?
Dad?
No? Like not even a single letter?
I also love the humor of the students of Colorado University who named their school dining hall the Alfred Packer Restaurant and Grill, with the slogan, "Have a friend for lunch." A nearby bar has a similar plaque with the slogan, "Serving humanity since 1874. The word cannibal is derived from cannibales, the Spanish name for the Caribs, a West Indies tribe that likely practiced cannibalism. As you probably guessed, that's also where the word Caribbean comes from. The Spanish most likely exaggerated the extent of Carib cannibalism and elsewhere as well, based on Queen Isabella's decree of 1503 against the enslavement of indigenous peoples unless they were cannibals. So it was greatly to the benefit of the Spanish to claim the indigenous were cannibals, since that allowed for their enslavement. On the other hand, less biased accounts from the period, as well as recent archaeological evidence, clearly indicate there was at least some cannibalism among the Aztecs and surrounding cultures. The truth, as usual, probably lies somewhere in the middle. I did a brief scan and found at least 22 countries where cannibalism has been seen in the relatively recent past. That includes New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, the Amazon Basin, Liberia, the Congo, and parts of Melanesia, and of course the US. The Fiji Islands were once known by sailors as the Cannibal Isles. As a side story, the most prolific cannibal known to date is a Fijian tribal chief from around 1850, Ratu Udre, who's said to have consumed at least 872 people. Elsewhere in New Zealand, the Maori are supposed to have used the term long pig in describing candidates for their cannibalism. So even recently, Homo sapiens certainly have had their share of this practice. Moving from historical times a little farther back into the archaeological record, there's strong evidence for cannibalism among Homo sapiens at sites like Goes Cave in the UK, which dates to around 15,000 years ago. There, researchers have found the remains of several individuals, including a teenager and a small child, that show clear evidence of cannibalism. And that includes cut marks, gnawing, and the bones cracked open for their marrow and grease. At least 3 skulls were painstakingly fashioned into cups or bowls. Although the bodies were obviously used for food, most investigators think there was also a ritual aspect involved. This partly comes from zigzag marks found carefully engraved into a forearm bone. It's the oldest known example of an engraved human bone. Additionally, it seems like there was lots of food around at the time, with abundant remains of horses and other prey, so hunger probably wasn't the key driver. Finally, the skull cups were meticulously prepared and shaped, whereas just smashing into the brain cavity would have sufficed if the cannibals were solely after food. Other similar cannibalized skull cups have been found in France that date to roughly the same age. And carefully modified skulls have been found in Spain that were most likely war trophies. But what the rituals were and what the cups were used for, that all remains a mystery that's unlikely to ever be solved. Although some scientists speculate that the cups and engravings were a way to remember a loved one's life or death, I'm not buying it, because most of the human remains were discarded with other animals butchered for food, rather than being deliberately or reverently buried or cared for. And that has most researchers and me thinking that these things probably were war trophies. The tradition of war trophies has been carried on by numerous cultures. Neolithic peoples at Herxheim, Germany, and El Mirador Cave in Spain made skull cups, and Herodotus, around 500 BC, wrote that the Scythians drank from the skulls of their enemies. Apparently, there were similar practices in first century China and in some Viking groups. It's been pretty widespread. In 2009, Rossi and others described a Homo sapiens site at Leroy, France, where a cut-marked skull of what appears to be a Neanderthal child was found. The report suggested the skull may have been used by modern humans as a drinking cup or for ritualistic purposes. The cut marks were like those on reindeer bones and could indicate Homo sapiens' predation and cannibalism of Neanderthals. In Razi's words, Neanderthals met a violent end at our hands, and in some cases, we ate them. Other scientists have strongly disagreed with the finding. In 2003, a publication documented that modern humans have genes that give us a little protection from prion disease. That suggested that we may have had so much cannibalism in our past that we evolved protections. In a fascinating follow-up proposal 5 years later, Simon Underdown speculated that Neanderthal cannibalism of modern humans might have contributed to their extinction. According to him, the widespread cannibalism in our Homo sapiens past led to our developing the genes, the 129 and 127 variants of the PRNP gene, that give us some immunity to dangerous prions when we eat our own kind. Neanderthals didn't have those genes, and they may have contracted Kuru-like spongiform disease when they ate us. What's Kuru? Well, it's a prion disease where you gradually lose control of your muscles until you die. It's always fatal. The disease first came to light in the mid-1900s from studies of the Fore tribe of New Guinea who practiced mortuary cannibalism. At that point, up to 2% of the tribe were dying from prion disease every year. Thankfully, the practice of cannibalism ceased even before the cause of the disease was fully recognized some years later. Although there is disagreement, a great majority of researchers discount that any of these genes or the lack of them played a significant role in the Neanderthal demise. So, what does human meat taste like? It's an unsavory topic, pun intended, but there has been some investigation about it. William Seabrook was a New York Times reporter who, in his 1929 book, The Magic Island, introduced the concept of zombies to popular culture.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
So you can credit or blame him for shows like The Walking Dead. Well, in 1931, in the interest of research, he obtained a piece of a dead human accident victim from a hospital in France. After cooking and eating the meat, he described the taste, in his words, like good, fully developed veal and agreeably edible. He claimed that few would be able to distinguish the meat from veal. As a cautionary note, I should warn you that a couple of years later, he committed himself to a mental institute. Most of us have tried, but can't forget Hannibal Lecter's comment.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
By the way, cool story there. Lecter was making a joke for his own amusement. Most folks didn't catch it. Many folks take MAOIs, monoamine oxidase inhibitors, for depression, panic disorder, or for other mental problems. Well, there are definitely things you can't eat when you take MAOIs. And three of the main ones are, you guessed it, liver, fava beans, and Chianti. So to summarize all this, it's clear that cannibalism has been with us for a long time. The record shows that different cultures have had many different and nuanced reasons for their cannibalism. These reasons run the whole spectrum from keeping loved ones close to belittling your enemies. As scientists stew on this and we try to digest, okay. I think in many cases, it's been a simple matter of survival, a waste not, want not philosophy. We probably will never know the reasons behind most of the prehistoric cannibalism, but I'm convinced that food was a primary driver for much of it. When the archaeological record shows, as it does so often, human bones broken for their marrow and then discarded with other similarly treated prey animal bones, it's difficult to take that as an act of honoring a loved one. On the other hand, we shouldn't underestimate the cultural sophistication of prehistoric peoples, not only of us, but of other human species as well. Just about every month, reports come out that shed new light on the abilities and sophistication that our ancestors and sister species such as Neanderthals had. And we are finding that they were much more advanced than we thought. We're also seeing a great deal more variability among these groups. For instance, researchers have found distinctly different cultural and symbolic traditions among the widely scattered Neanderthal clans, from wearing feathers and jewelry to burying their dead to building shrines. Wouldn't these different human cultures also have had different reasons for defleshing and or eating members of their own species? It could be that most of these prehistoric people were just opportunists, consuming anything they came across, especially in times of scarcity. But we can't discount the possibility that social and religious motivations may have also played a significant role in determining why the practice took place. So where does that leave us? Many anthropologists think it's important to study cannibalism because it so powerfully fascinates and repels us. Perhaps something that produces such a profound impact on our emotions is telling us something that can help illuminate our human nature. Well, that's what I have for you today. Most of you already know about my 3 books, my 2 novels, Mach 2 and the Mammoth People, and The People Eaters, are science-based thrillers set 45,000 years ago when we Homo sapiens first met up with Neanderthals in Europe. I'm happy and grateful to say they've been well received by critics and the readers are loving them. I've also written a children's science book, When We Met Neanderthals. It's a colorful picture story of what may have happened when we met up with this other human species so long ago. It's been strongly endorsed by the head of the anthropology department at Texas A&M. If you have kids or grandchildren, they're going to love it. Check it out. Finally, I want to encourage all of you to look into my posts on Facebook at author Neil Bockoven. Including other sites that pick up my posts, I've been able to build a community of more than 4.5 million weekly followers. I hope you'll check those out, and please hit the like button for this video, subscribe, and you know we also love comments too.